Alright, y'all. What's up? On this one, I am going to show you a bit of the process of how I go about putting together my BoomBap drums. I apologize for the popping in the microphone or whatever. I'm out on the porch, so this one I'm on the porch series. Got my thermosales joint out here and everything. But I like being outside with it, um so here we go. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find my drum sounds. So let me see. I already got the drum program open, and let me see. We're just gonna do, I guess, just do like not really basic, but some stereotypical New York type boom bap, like 90s type drums. So here we go. First thing I'm gonna do is try to find a kick. I'm gonna go with my meat and potatoes sample folder. That junk got all the samples that I normally use. Let me see. Alright, here we go. Now I'm not sure what my levels looking like on here, so one, two. Alright, gonna try to make it work. Here we go. We don't want breaks. We want one shots. For the most part, I don't really use breaks unless I create a drum loop, because a lot of times I create drum loops and I save them with effects and everything on there. Save them in mono. You get the best hit. Well, I believe you get the best drum hit in mono. And let's cut that volume up some. Oh, that jump right there, nasty. Yeah, I like that. Alright. Yeah, I really like that. Alright, and then let's see. Get a snare. Do 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 do. Alright, so I know that's like a funk a funk drum pattern. But yeah, that's where I came from. I'm an 80s baby, so that's where hip hop came from too. Well, a nice part of it. From the funk. Oh damn. Didn't mean to do that. Alright, here we go. Alright, so now we're gonna get them levels right real quick. Here we go. So, well, first let's make a basic pattern. So let me see. We got 2-bar loop, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, there we go. All right, so that right there, that's 86.21 beats per minute. I'm going to do a quantize to start out with. I want to show you something real quick after I do this drum loop, because a lot of times people like to have variation to their drums and all this type stuff, and that's cool or whatever like that. Very vital, but I don't waste a lot of time. There's more than one way to do anything, but I try not to spend too much time finding samples and layering samples and repitching samples and all that type stuff to have them shuffle on different hits for different hit variations. So I'm gonna show you what I use, and it's actually pretty easy. It's pretty quick. You don't get as accurate a result, or you're not in as much control of the result as if you were to layer the samples, per pad, and then you copy the one channel to 4. And then you make variations on the top 3, and then you bring those in on different layers in the sample editor. Excuse me, the program editor. And then they cycle, so you pretty much know when the sound's gonna come. But here we go. Let's make this beat real quick. No, I don't like that. That jump was. There we go. Excuse me, y'all. All right. Let's see. Put some swing on this jump real quick. How we want to do? We're gonna put this on triplets. Nope, that ain't it. Alright, I like that. It's got a funky swing to it. Alright, so here we go. Now I'm not gonna do per instrument when I show how I do the effects and stuff like that, because it's pretty simple. You get a pretty fat drum sound, a drum loop. Just doing actual channel mixing. So, but before we do that, I'm going to go to the drum editor, program editor, I don't know what they call it. And then from here, alright, so got the kick sample. I'm gonna go to samples. I'm gonna hit sample. Alright, now I should say I'm using version 3.5. So the functions may be a little bit different, but I believe they're basically the same in this aspect. Now key groups are definitely different if you switch out of legacy mode. But here we go. So let's say go back. So I'm gonna go to the editor. I'm in the sample tab. I'm gonna hit sample 3 times, and then in this section you have what's called your randomization section. And what that does is it gives you very slight variations on every drum hit. So if you're going for more dynamic drum sounds, now remember it's all going to be, you could compress it to taste and push everything together. But if you want different sounding different sounding drums per hit to make it sound more lifelike or human-like, you can actually go to your randomization section. Most people overlook this section, but I like it. And basically I crank it not real high, but like say for this kick, I'm starting out with a pitch variation of 45. And see, it's not really noticeable. Right? And that's why I like it. I like it to be subtle. Because once the mix starts going, you'll actually hear the difference. Then I normally, so for all my levels, I tend to start out with between 20 and 30. And then you get a feel for it and you know where you want to back off or if you want to increase. So here I just changed the level per hit. You hear that difference? I like that. So right there, whoa, those level set at 69. Now for my kicks, I don't really like to change the offset too much or the attacks. Well, sometimes I like to put a little bit on the attack. With the attack, you have to be very careful with all the drums, because even a small instance of attack, like between 1 and 5 or 5 and 8 points, it makes a huge difference in the way the drum sounds. Like, I don't know if y'all heard that slight slight mute and a kick on that hit. That's only a level 2, so I like that. We're gonna do the same thing for the snare. Alright, so I'm going pitch. Now you hear that modulation and pitch now? This is without it. Now I'm gonna be 100% honest. I believe that the way MPC, how they get their distinct sound, or Akai gets their distinct sound and flavor on the MPC series, is they have a slight modulation, be it noise modulation, like noise modulation or sample and hold modulation, running at a high frequency. Because I don't know if you've ever listened to the same sound and hit it multiple times, especially with drum sounds and some sample sounds. Each hit is actually slightly different, very, very minutely, it's a minuscule difference, but it makes a difference to the human ear. And I think that that's actually part of the science of how the MPC gets its sound. Because right now, if you pay attention, I'm hitting that snare. That snare has no randomization on the pitch right now. The first hit is always bright. The second hit following immediately is I don't know, I guess not even a semitone. It'd be like a cent. It's like a half of a cent lower in tone if you listen carefully. Up, down, up, down. And that's with no modulation on the pitch. But that's just my little conspiracy theory. But here we go. So we're gonna put this modulation heavy on the pitch side on the snare. And then we're going to change the level. I like that. Now for my snares, I tend to put a little bit of randomization on the offset. Cause my man Conan was saying on what's that? The Crates Motel with Conan. If you haven't seen that channel, definitely check him out. He's a very cool guy. Actually, when I first got my MPC, and still to this day, I watched all his videos along with a few others, and they actually got me up to speed. From who's it? I apologize if I mispronounced your name, brother. Ave McCree. The Crates Motel with Conan. Who else? Oh dang. Well, I apologize because it's 2 other people, but I can't remember their name off top. But yeah, actually, it's 3 other people. There's quite a few channels with people that run samplers. They may not be specific to MPC, but they had some very good MPC live 2 or just MPC content in general. But yeah, anyway, back. I'm rambling. All right, so here we go. I like to, I was saying I like to add a little bit of offset variation to my snare drum. Because as Conan was saying, when people really play the drum is not striking the exact same point on the snare or on the drum piece every single time. Sometimes they might get like a rim. They might get closer to the rim. Sometimes they might get closer to the middle, and each time it's a different sound, and depending on the stroke and the angle that they're hitting the drum at changes the sound also. So when you change or when you vary the offset, when you randomize the offset in the little channel settings, it gives it a more human feel. So you hear that? I like that. So we got that going. So now I'm gonna play the actually, I think I'm going to change a little bit on the attack, too. We're going to add 3 points to the attack for some of that, I guess, what do you call it, trajectory. When the stick coming down, sometimes the stick slides and you don't get a solid snare hit. And this will give you a little bit of that variation. I like that as well. So it's going to be a little bit softer. You're not going to have as much of an attack on there. Not going to be as sharp, not on every hit. But now this is the pattern now. way better than it did plain. And I didn't even put anything on the hats. Normally on the hats, I crank the pitch way up. Well, you know, the randomization on the pitch way up. So cut that up. Normally don't go above 70 though, because you start getting some wild pitches. And then crank the level up to about 35, between 35 and 40. Now, when you listen to it like this, you don't really have as much control over the volume on the swing. So as far as the volume swinging, that's something that you need to take care of later on down the road with the timing on your attack and release on your compression. And depending on, I guess depending on the type of compressor you're using as well. For the most part, on my drums when I'm getting started, I don't use the regular air compressor. I like the regular air compressor. I just like the regular standard bus compressor. And it came with the MPC. And I also like the, the vintage compressor. And I like the VCA compressor because they have certain sounds. And on some of those models, they actually allow you to alter or decide how much drive of input you want to have feeding the compressor. And it gives you specific sounds. So don't sleep on those stock MPC plugins because, after you done had all of them, for the most part, you end up going back to those originals and you hear that they actually have certain tonal qualities that you may not find in the other plugins. All right, but anyway, let me shut up. So we got our drum loop going right there, right? I'm gonna cut this up a little bit on the interface. All right, and I guess just for good measure, the interface that I'm using is the SSL, SSL 12 USB interface, or solid state logic SSL 12. And the reason I got it is because it has this little, they call it a 4K boost or whatever like that. It's supposed to emulate, I guess, what's the 4K SSL channels. And I like it because it has a little bit of mid-range, the upper range harmonics and slight distortion. And I like to record MPC straight out the box, not necessarily via the software or via USB, because it actually has a different sound coming out the box. You know, it could be a variation in, I guess, the electrical plug or whatever like that. All right, but again, I'm talking too much, so we're going to get out of here. All right, so now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Mix. And now I'm just in the main channel here for the drum program. What I like to do is for my first item, like I said, I like to run a compressor. Now me, I run a lot of plugins. Like I use all my plugin slots. I use all 4, then I send them to another bus, and I use 4 more. And then I normally bounce my drums down to mono, and then I might do the final tweaks and EQ and stuff like that on some more channels. Because sometimes I actually like to run my harmonic processors before my my compressor, because it actually will bring up the harmonics and the artifacts and everything like that, especially if you're going for a lo-fi sound. But here, we're just going to focus on getting some harmonics, getting some punch, and also a bit of compression, and to get a basic, you know what I mean, get a nice hip-hop drum sound. So here we go. So I am going to go to the bus compressor, because to me, that's the easiest to use, and it has a certain sound to it. I can't, you know, I'm not an engineer or anybody like that, but it has a slightly different sound. I don't think warm is the term, but I guess it will have a softer, warmer tone. When I start, if you pay attention on your MPC, when you first open a bus compressor, I like to think that they guide you to where to start. Because if you notice, this little selection box will be at different places in each plugin that you go to. But anytime you go back to that plugin and you open it for the first time, it's gonna be in the exact same place. So I started to pay attention. To that. The first thing that I touch on the bus compressor before I hit the compression ratio, or before I hit the attack or the release, I tend to go straight to threshold to see what variation it's gonna give me. Alright, now I'm kind of liking that because it kind of brought everything together a little bit. We're gonna give it some more attack, and we're gonna shorten that release. Now I'm gonna take that back off. I'm gonna shut up this time. I'm gonna do it so you get the difference in sound mix. So I'm gonna set it back to where it was. It's basically set at 50-50 at 0 decibels threshold. Right now I have it at -17. So back off. I'm back off. Here we go. Alright, so that's the original. Alright, and that's it with me just opening up the attack a little bit more to let more through before the compressor clamps down, shortening that release time way up so you get more punch on the tail of those sounds. And again, I have my threshold at -17. There's more than one way to do everything. So you find a plugin that you're comfortable with, learn each plugin. You know what I mean? You determine what settings are good for you. Again, I'm not an engineer. You know what I mean? I used to produce a little bit of music locally in the past, but I'm nobody big or anything like that. But everybody has their own experience, has their own flavor. So you do you. This is how I do me. All right? So now the ratio is still set to 1. I never touched the ratio. I never touched the output, even though I do have more headroom since I have a -17 threshold. So I could probably stand to add 1 or 2 decibels on the output. It's really going to make it crank. The other option that you have with the bus compressor is you can change modes. They have regular mode and they have a mode that they call old school. And old school seems like it brings things more up center, almost kind of mono, I guess. You know, it takes the highs and stuff away from the side. You hear the difference. Here we go. All right, now this is old school. Yeah, that sound like it chopped the head off the highs. It's weird because it kind of sound like it boxed it in. So you don't really have too much on top. If you could visualize a doorway, right? Or if visualize a sunset, right? Like you got the sun is round, you got the waves radiating around the side. This is almost like you put a garage door in the middle of the sun and you cut everything around that off. So all those frequencies that were going to the side, the highs, everything like that, it kind of boxed them in, and you don't have any really thing radiating off the top either. So this is going to be with the old school off. Old school on. Off. On. Alright, so that was that. So normally after I put the first compressor on, that's when I like to go to my harmonic section. You ever get a chance, read your manual so you can read what the differences are and the different factory plugins that come with it. Because certain harmonic plugins have they have different sounds. Some of them have built-in filters to handle your artifacts and stuff like that. Some of them don't, and it won't be a knob. It's just something that you hear when you're making adjustments. So here we go. 2. What's the first one? I think for this, I am going to. All right, we do air lo-fi. That's probably the one most people grab anyway. Now, the first thing that I'm gonna do when I'm here, is I'm actually gonna lower my sample rate. I'm not gonna touch the bit depth or anything else. So I like to bring my sample rate down. I start at 20 kilohertz, between 20, and sometimes I get real low with it, but normally between 14 and 20. And then I just kind of play with the mix from there. You know, it depends on what kind of sound you're going for and how sharp you want it to be. Right now we're at 19.6, all right, 20.3 kilohertz at 16-bit, full 100% mix. And the next thing that I tend to play with is I go straight over in the same plugin to noise modulation. And I normally crank that to about 15, 20. Yeah, it's bringing up the artifacts or the noise on the sides. I like that. It's bringing up that crunch. And then from there, I like to add a little bit of rectification to the signal. As well as a little bit of signal clipping to make it sound a little dirty. That kick drum starting to sound a little bit too metal though, so I'm gonna back off on the clip a little bit. Then I am going to go to the anti-aliasing filters. I'm gonna cut the top, the pre-filter, all the way down to 0.125 sometimes. I normally do between 0.125, which is the bass, or the lowest level you can go, to 250. Then I'm gonna cut that filter on. And see how it kind of makes the drums a little bit more hollow for now. But that's only because we have that post filter still all the way up. Now, one of the things that I pay attention to, because I didn't really understand how to read these filters, because they had these little stupid numbers and it says FS. But if you take that bottom or lowermost filter that says post, and you raise it all the way to the top, it says 2.000 FS. I like to think that is kilohertz. So instead of it being 2000 FS, I just multiply by 10, and I look at it like 20,000 in kilohertz, and that helps me decide what frequency and stuff I'm gonna cut up. So we're gonna lower that post. And see right now, got that lowered to about 155, or in my term, 1,550 kilohertz. And then from there, I like to add a little bit of high pass filter. Yeah, high pass filter has a very distinct sound to it as well. And then from there, this is where I actually get my bass from. I don't do EQ. I don't do basic EQ. All EQs are filters, but I don't do EQ when I'm trying to bring the kick to my drums. I just slap a high pass filter on there, bring the filter down, the frequency. Normally I stop. Alright, so that's what the frequency set to 10. 10 is the minimum frequency that you can select with a high pass filter. Normally, depending on the drum, the kick drum sound or type, I run my high pass filter between I'm gonna say 45 hertz and sometimes up to 62 or 70 hertz. But for this, I think I'm gonna go 55. We're gonna start 55. So got that filter set, and now I'm just gonna crank the resonance. I always start with the resonance at 12 o'clock, but we're gonna do it gradual so you get the difference that it makes in the sound. So I'm gonna go real slow. Kick really cranking now. It sound like really boxy and really punchy. I like to take it too far to the point where it sound like, even though your headphones aren't blowing, it sound like something's breaking. Like that. And then I back off a bit. And then once you get in the sweet spot, then you can play with your frequency a little bit more. So for me, I'm a go up in frequency. Now, for people like the old school, like backpack type freestyle boom bap, like the old 80s type beat, if you're going for that thing, or early 90s beat, you know, we didn't have subwoofers and all that type stuff back then. People ain't had that type of money. So our boom boxes and stuff didn't really have too much space. So when they used to do the mixes back then, a lot of times, they would really cut out the lows. Like basically everything. Well, I can't say what everybody used to do, but from what I heard, they used to cut out a lot of 50 and below, and run more of 70 to 80 hertz for punch. And that ugly sound right there is it at about 117. So there we go, that's a 71, but I want a little bit more bottom than that. There we go. Alright, so that's at 50. Push that resonance up a little bit more. Cool. Alright, so we got that going. And then, I think the last thing I'm gonna do, because let me see, we had a compressor, we have a harmonic processor, and then we have a high pass filter for the punch. I normally put a low pass filter on top because the high pass filters and the low pass filters on MPC that come with it out of the box have distinct sounds. So we'll put the low pass filter on there, and I'm probably gonna bring that up to about 7,500 or around about. Or maybe 45. There we go, 45, 50. And I'm gonna add a little bit of resonance to bring some top back to it. So you hear that the drums are breathing more, especially up top, but then you still at the bottom. And it almost sounds like, because now you can hear the tails and the reverb from all the samples, it sounds like we actually put a little bit of a plate reverb or spring reverb on there. We didn't touch the reverb, we didn't touch any effects at all like that. So that's that. So that's basically how I run my drums. And then normally from there I run them through another compressor, squash them a little bit. So let's do that. Go to the in and outs, run that to a sub mix. We're gonna go over to the sub mix. Okay. Effects. Now I'll probably use I either use the VCA compressor because it has a certain sound to it, or just to be quick, I'll use a standard air compressor. Now I really can't get with when you first cut on the standard air compressor that it's hitting that hard and all you get is the drums breathing and pumping in and out. That's like overkill. If you have like a sound in your head that you think about processing based on what you're already hearing, and then you open this plug-in, it just throws your game way off. And even if you create a preset of your own, you still have to open a plug-in and it still won't do the same stupid stuff. So, but anyway, they got the output by default set at 15. That's crazy. Threshold set at -48. So let's cut everything. There we go. Alright, so for me, starting out, I like to run my ratio at between 1.5 and 1.7. That's starting out. Probably by the time we finish, I'll probably be up at a ratio somewhere between 3.9 where it was on default and 4.5 decibels reduction per each decibel above the threshold. So now I'm gonna lower the threshold, lower it way down, just so I can hear how the actual compressors affecting the sound and like where the attack and release points are. Then I'm gonna bring it back up. Alright, I like it about right there. That's negative 20.6 decibels on the threshold. Gonna give it some more attack. Showing that release up again. Alright, I apologize for the background noise. Alright, that tail's too short. There we go. Now it's kind of sort of breathing the way I would like. I'm going to up that ratio. There we go. So I got my ratio set about 2.61. Again, it's more than one way to do everything. And I probably do things a little bit different, man. I feel like I'm under the gun with this camera on me, but I'm trying, you know what I mean? We're gonna push the output a little bit. There we go. Now looking at the levels, the original input level was between 7.4 and 7.1 decibels. And right now the output is actually at -8 decibels to 7.8 decibels. But it just sounds bigger and fatter. Here we go. This is with the compression off. And on. Yeah, I brought up that crunch a little bit. Alright, and then from there, because I'm tired of hearing that drum beat anyway, from there, this is what I do. And a lot of people may not do this, but I do this. So we're going to take that drum loop that we just made, right? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the actual pattern. Going to cut the loop feature off on the sequence or on the pattern. Then we're going to go to sampler. Okay. We're going to go to the input. We want the input to be set to resample, or I'm not going to say we want. Right now, I want the input to be set to resample left and right. That way it's sampling the internal outputs from the MPC. And we wanted to sample to mono. Okay. So I'm going to cut the monitoring on just so you know I can hear what's being recorded. We're going to hit the record button and then hit the play button. Cool beans. So we're going to take that sample right now, because I'm not really going to do, I don't think I'm going to do make a beat after this video. But here we go. We just going to name that 1. And then from there, I'm going to go into edit. I'm going to set the timeline units from samples. I'm going to set it to beats so I can see where I want to cut the sample to loop it. So here we go. We're going to do a loop. But yo, do you hear that difference though? When the sample been down sample via the plugins, of course. Now remember, we didn't change the bit rate. All I did was change the sample rate. Right now, the sample rate from the lo-fi plugin was set to 20.6 kilohertz. We left the bit rate the same, but added some crunch to it. When we went to bounce the drum sample, you gotta remember that even though the plugin is internally going to supposedly 16-bit, when you go to bounce, I believe that it's still bouncing at a resolution of 24. So when it bounces from 24 down to 16, because I had mine set to export everything to 16-bit, then that's actually reducing the frequency level even more. So right now, instead of being 24-bit, 20.6 kilohertz or something like that for the sample rate, right now it sounds like it's running about 16 bit. Well, we know it's running 16 bit, but between, I want to say 10 and 14 kilohertz for the sample rate. It sounds crunchier, punchier, fuller, especially since now all the artifacts and harmonics and everything are right up the middle. And that's why I like to run my drums for my BoomBap HipHop right up the middle of mono, because that's the way stuff used to be anyway. You sampling off record, you know what I mean? Records was mono. The stereo joints was job booty, because you had the bass on one side and your instrumentation on the other side and drums on the other side. That's that pseudo stereo. Here we go. Let me cut this sample. Take that. Discard. I know a lot of people advise against discard, but if it's a loop that you create off a sample from a pattern that you already created, feel free to throw away whatever you want to throw away. You know what I mean? Because you can always just resample it. All right, so then from there, here we go. So we got our drums. Them drums sound delicious too. Alright, now we didn't normalize it. I normally don't like to really normalize it. From here, I am going to go to, well, we could try to do bit reduce on it one more time. Just hear what kind of qualities it gives them when we lower it down to 12 bits. Let's see. First, let's play the original. Dang, hold on. Get out of there. Oh, it's doing MPC stuff. Sometimes the screens be switching. All right, here we go. That's original. Okay. Now we're going to do the 12-bit reduction. or 4-bit reduction, and bring it to 12 bits. And we're gonna hear what difference that makes. I like that. Now, one thing that you notice is that with that reduction, it took a little bit of roundness off the bottom end of that kick drum, though, because you don't have as much tail. Because remember, it's actually reducing the samples or the sample rate, so you're not going to hear the tails on everything. All right, so that was width. We're going to hit the undo button, undo the bit reduce. Listen to it again. Yeah, even the tail on that snare drum sounds different. So now we're going to put it back because I like it. So redo. It made the tail on the snare crunchier and took a little bit of the roundness off that bottom end. From here, what I like to do is I actually like to go to gain change, and I tend to go 3 decibels at a time. So right now we're going to add 3 decibels on top of the current gain or current volume level and see what we get. Actually, we know what we're going to get because it's going to sound exactly the same but louder. But let's hear it anyway. Ooh-wee, that snare is cracking. That snare is cracking now, and the kicks sound a little bit muddier, but they still real punchy. Just a little bit muddier, but the snare is cracking. Let's hear it again. All right. Let's see what happens when I go up 3 more decibels. Now, I think you pretty much know where I'm going with this, and I could have went to it easily and just hit the normalize button, went straight to 0, and then, did my stuff after that so you get hit with the clipping would do to it and, how it would affect it. But I feel like you should go step by step so you can see how each little increment affects the sound. You know what I mean? Not necessarily when you're teaching, but that's the way that anytime I learn something, anytime I'm teaching somebody something, I like to take them step by step, so they can see the nuances and the nuances in the steps or in the differences from the steps that they took. So they, you really learn your equipment. You really learn how each feature works on a minute level. That's how I believe that's how you learn your equipment. But here we go. Let's listen to it again. Yo. That jump sounded fat. That got me over. I'm about to bust. I'm about to blaze a rhyme out this jump. Like for real. But let me stop. You know what I mean? And that was just going up. We went up 6 decibels. 6 decibels. We not even clipping yet. We getting it, but we ain't clipping yet. We're gonna go up 3 more. We're gonna hear the difference, okay? So at this point, we 9 decibels over where we started from when we bounced down. Here we go. See, and I don't know if you can see on the camera, but the top half of the wave, it looks like it's actually clipping the heads off of them. The wave is kind of offset, off center a little bit because it's not equal on the top and the bottom. So the bottom parts of the waves, they're closer to 0, but the top is looking like it's clipping just a smidgen. Let's see how that sounds. Nah, I don't like that. That shit sound booty. All right, so we're going to undo that. We're going to go back. So I'm comfortable with the 0.6, but this I beat. Here we go. Now I'm not comfortable because that +9, that jump is loud and filthy, but it was just nasty. So instead of doing 3, we're going to go up 1 decibel this time, see what difference it makes. And there you go. Normally from here, because this video, I'm taking entirely too long to show you just how I process my drums to get a boom bap sound. Now, again, this is with no reverb. This is just with dynamics processing and frequency processing, and a little bit of a bit rate change, or I don't know what they call it. Making the stuff sound a little bit more lo-fi. Because that was actually a live drum kit that I started out with the initial samples. And I should say that those samples came from a pack from oh, what's the name of it? Is Vonder? Oh man, not Vonderkind. I'm saying Vonder because it's VV. Basically W. But he has a man. I'm using my phone to record, so damn, I can't look it up. I bought a sample pack of his, and he actually samples live drums. He had a drummer come in to his studio, and he recorded the drummer on a teak machine. I'm not sure if that was the tape machine, and he recorded one set on a teak, and then he recorded another set on. Let me see here. The Revox. The drummer is filthy. He is like that. And the dude, I forget his name. I watch his videos, so I'm mad I forget his name. It's not very often that he comes out with videos, so that's probably why I don't remember his name. But when I saw he had sounds for sale, I had to cop them. Let me see what the name of this is. It's called VVT 68 Breaks. If you can, look that up on Google or whatever search engine you use for the internet. Check that joint out. I mean, I think it was worth it. I can't remember if I paid 20. I don't know. It's between $15 and $30. But it comes with like a lot of drum loops, drum multi-samples, hat cymbals, snare, kick, you know what I mean? And I think it was something like, it was fairly large for it to just be dedicated to drum samples. So I think it was almost 3 gigabytes in size, but it's like that. And I just wanted to shout them out too. I need to do better remembering people's names. Or actually, maybe I'll make a script from now on and not just go up the top of my head. But I really wanted to make a video showing you guys how I affect and how I build my drum patterns, or at least part of it. Because I'm going to be 100% honest. When I make a full beat, sometimes I can spend up to an hour on my drums, like, especially like the BoomBap drums. Like, I ain't got nothing against trap and all that type of stuff. That's not really my thing. You know what I mean? I make that music, but that's not really my thing. But the BoomBap that I grew up on and everything like that, like, to me, everything's kind of sort of got to be perfect. So it's like finite adjustments on everything, bouncing and resampling everything, and then adjusting that. You know what I mean? Got to use a certain compressor. I go by feel and sound, and not so much on rote process or rote memory. You know what I mean? So for me to do this took a lot. When I sit down to do a beat, I'm not gonna lie, most times if I'm really digging the beat and I really put myself into it, it could take 3.5, sometimes 4 hours to complete a beat. And that's before I come back and listen to it the next day or later on that day and make adjustments to it. Normally by the time I kick stuff out to YouTube, y'all hearing the first revision. Like, that's before I even come back to it and listen to it and see where I messed up or see what frequencies out of whack, or maybe I had my headphones up too loud, or maybe I had the wrong headphones on. It's like right now I'm rocking my Audio Technica, what's that, ATH50s? But the ones that I tend to mix on, I forgot, the Audio Technica is something R, and they like open, so I don't get any distortion, or I don't get drowned up by bass and everything like that, because the headphones actually breathe. But anyway, I'm talking too much. Don't want to take up too much of your time. It's your boy Johnny 5K Music. Thank you for rocking with me. I hope the video can help you out a little bit and getting your boom bap sound for your 80s, late 80s or early 90s to mid 90s, even late 90s. Just straight boom bap music, you know what I mean? Back when the 808 was cool, but the 808 wasn't really the thing. You know what I mean? It was like if you heard the 808 on a rap song, like when Dr. Dre dropped the Chronic and he had them 808s on with the boom bap drums, that shit was crazy. You know what I mean? It was different then. But nowadays, like everything is 808, so it don't really have the same appeal. You know, you get used to hearing something and it just don't have the same appeal anymore. But anyway, again, wasting too much of your time. Johnny 5K Music Official. Check me out. I'm gonna post some items up on my BeatStars page. I've been saying that forever, and I be so busy in here just making music. I don't post anything. Haven't made any monies. But anyway, I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.